In 1986, South Dakota became the first state in America to abolish the single legal mechanism that had prevented permanent hereditary wealth for 300 years. Most people never heard about it. The families who needed to know found out immediately. The rule against perpetuities is one of the oldest property laws in the English-speaking world. It was formalized in the Duke of Norfolk's case in 1682, and its logic was straightforward. No private individual should be able to lock up wealth inside a legal instrument that controls assets across unlimited future generations. The rule forced trust to terminate within a life in being plus 21 years. In practical terms, that meant roughly 90 to 100 years. Great fortunes could be preserved for a generation, maybe two. Then the assets had to be distributed, taxed, divided among heirs, and exposed to the market. The dissolution was considered a feature, not a flaw. Common law courts across England and then America treated the rule as a democratic corrective, a mechanism ensuring that yesterday's wealth accumulation could not permanently insulate a bloodline from economic reality. For most of American history, the rule held. Wealth concentrated certainly, but it cycled. The Vanderbilt fortune, estimated at $100 million in 1877, equivalent to roughly $2.5 billion today, was largely dissipated within 2 generations through a combination of estate taxes, trust terminations, and the spending habits of 50 direct heirs. When Cornelius Vanderbilt's grandson Cornelius III died in 1942, he left $500,000. The mechanism was working exactly as designed: accumulation without permanence, power without dynasty. Then in 1986, South Dakota's legislature passed a trust modernization package that drew almost no national press coverage. Buried inside it was the abolition of the rule against perpetuities for trusts administered in the state. A trust established in South Dakota could now hold assets indefinitely. Not for 90 years, not for a century, forever, in the legal sense of the word. The same year, the federal generation skipping transfer tax was overhauled under the Tax Reform Act of 1986, which created a lifetime exemption that made long horizon trust planning newly advantageous for high net worth families. The timing was not coincidental. South Dakota had studied the federal calendar. What followed was quiet and methodical. Alaska repealed its rule in 1997. Delaware followed. Then Nevada, Wyoming, New Hampshire, and Tennessee. By 2010, 19 states had either abolished the rule entirely or extended permissible trust durations to between 360 and 1,000 years. Numbers that are, for all practical purposes, permanent. Family offices began relocating trust administration to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a city of 200,000 that now administers an estimated $367 billion in trust assets. The wealthiest families in America had found a jurisdiction that would hold their money outside the reach of estate taxation, creditor claims in many cases, and the biological entropy that had dissolved every great American fortune before it. The rule that prevented aristocracy had been repealed, quietly, state by state, and the compounding had already begun. In 1983, South Dakota became the first state to abolish the rule against perpetuities. The decision was not accidental. Citibank had threatened to relocate its credit card operations unless the state rewrote its usury laws. The legislature complied. Trust law followed the same logic. By 1997, South Dakota had eliminated the perpetuities rule entirely, positioning itself as the premier jurisdiction for permanent dynasty trusts. The architects of that legislation were not academics. They were trust company executives and wealth attorneys who drafted the statutes they would later profit from administering. The South Dakota Trust Company was founded in 1997, the same year the final restrictions fell. The timing was not coincidental. What followed was a legislative arms race. Alaska abolished the rule in 1997. Delaware followed, Nevada in 1999, Wyoming in 2007. By 2010, 19 states had repealed or effectively nullified perpetuities law. Each repeal was sold to state legislatures as economic development, trust administration fees, jobs, tax revenue. What was never stated plainly was the structural consequence. A legal container had been created in which a fortune could compound across centuries without ever being forced back into the taxable economy. Assets placed inside a South Dakota dynasty trust face no state income tax, no capital gains tax at the state level, and if structured correctly, no federal estate tax at generational transfer. The Internal Revenue Service documented this architecture in its own guidance publications. The mechanism was never hidden. It was published. It was just never explained to anyone outside the rooms where it was used. The numbers inside these trusts are not modest. The South Dakota Division of Banking reported that trust assets held in the state crossed $1 trillion in 2020. By 2023, that figure had reached $667 billion in new assets in a single year alone, bringing the cumulative total to approximately $1.1 trillion. These are not diversified middle-class retirement accounts. The minimum cost to establish and administer a functioning dynasty trust runs between $500,000 and several million dollars. The families using them are operating what tax attorneys openly call family offices, private financial institutions that exist solely to manage a single family's permanent capital. The Walton family trust structures, the Mars family holdings, the Koch network of entities, these are not secrets. The SEC filings exist. The state trust registrations exist. What does not exist is a mechanism for anyone outside to see inside. The human cost of permanent capital accumulation is not dramatic in the way a factory fire is dramatic. It is structural and slow. Every dollar permanently sheltered inside a dynasty trust is a dollar that will never re-enter the estate tax system, which was designed in 1916 specifically to prevent hereditary concentration of economic power. The Tax Policy Center estimated in 2021 that the federal estate tax, even at its current diminished rate, applied to fewer than 2,000 estates annually. Dynasty trusts accelerate that narrowing. Communities that depend on property tax, on estate distributions funding local philanthropy, on inherited wealth cycling back through local economies, receive nothing from assets that exist in perpetuity inside a Sioux Falls trust company registered on a post office box street address. The employees, the pensioners, the small business owners who cannot access capital in the same jurisdictions where dynasty trust assets are parked, they have no seat in any room where these statutes were written. The point of no return arrived quietly. On December 17, 2010, Congress extended the Bush-era estate tax cuts and set the exemption threshold at $5 million per individual, indexed to inflation. That number has since risen to $13.61 million per person, $27.22 million per married couple, before a single dollar of federal estate tax applies. When that exemption is combined with a properly structured dynasty trust in South Dakota, the architecture for permanent, multi-generational, tax-sheltered wealth concentration was complete, not theoretical. Complete. The legal infrastructure was in place, the capital was moving, and the window for structural reform had closed in the same legislative session where almost no one was watching. No federal investigation was ever opened. No Senate committee subpoenaed the trust attorneys who drafted the model legislation. No state legislature that repealed the rule against perpetuities has since reversed course. What happened instead was quieter and more durable than any scandal: a competition. In 1986, South Dakota moved first, abolishing the rule to attract trust business fleeing new federal tax structures. Delaware followed, then Alaska, Nevada, Wyoming, and 14 more. The attorneys and family offices who understood what was happening moved capital into these jurisdictions within years. The families who benefited were not hiding. Their names are on university buildings and hospital wings. They simply used the law as written, in states that had rewritten it specifically for them. No one was charged because nothing was illegal. That is the architecture of this story. The firms that lobbied for these statutory changes have collected hundreds of millions in trustee fees since. South Dakota alone now holds an estimated $367 billion in trust assets, a figure that has roughly doubled every 5 years. The professionals who engineered the system, the trust attorneys, the legislators who sponsored the bills, the family offices who deployed the capital, faced no consequences because they were operating inside a system they had built to be consequence-proof. The public debate that should have surrounded the permanent abolition of a legal principle designed to prevent aristocratic wealth concentration never happened. The hearings were sparsely attended. The press coverage was minimal. The legislation passed in most states with little opposition because almost no one outside the trust industry understood what was being repealed or why it had existed for 300 years in the first place. The rule against perpetuities was not ancient superstition. It was a deliberate check, developed in English common law after the Duke of Norfolk's case in 1682, on the ability of one generation to bind all future generations to a single ownership structure. It forced wealth to move, to be taxed, to be distributed, to meet the world. That check is now gone in 19 states, and the trusts established under those laws have no expiration date. A dynasty trust created in South Dakota today can hold assets in perpetuity, compounding, untaxed at transfer, governed by documents written by people who are already dead. The question that has never been formally answered is whether a democracy can sustain a permanent, legally untouchable ownership class and remain a democracy. What do you actually think happens to a republic when the law stops requiring wealth to change hands? Drop your answer below, because this conversation only goes somewhere if you push it forward. And if you are not subscribed yet, every week we expose another system they hoped you would never understand.